Aloha, everyone. Michelle Melendez, Blossom Inner Wellness, and standtogetherhawaii.com. And I'm super excited because I have Ted White here, and he is a minister. He has spent 40 years flying for Hawaiian Air, and 40 years he's been on the islands of Hawaii. And he also has his own ministry. So he'll be able to share a little bit about that. But the reason why, well, actually, let me just say thank you and welcome, Ted, for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. I've been a fan of yours, actually, following your good work here about the Maui fire, and it's an honor to be on your program.
Oh, mahalo for that. Yeah, lots to learn on that one. So Ted is going to talk about the first, what was your experience? Well, let's just ground a little bit and tell us your experience with being on Hawaii, and because we are going to go through a court case that he had, and we're not going to say the C word that allowed for this thing to happen. But
Mhm. Yeah.
he did get a ticket for not wearing a face diaper on his face that prohibits him from breathing proper air, and he went to court and stood up for his sovereign rights. So tell us a little bit about that story, but first tell us about your experience with being here in Hawaii.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, yeah, it's a total miracle, really, what I'm doing here. I got a phone call one night in 1977. I was in Macon, Georgia, where I grew up. I was originally from Texas, and they were going to hire some pilots, Hawaiian Airlines, out here. They hadn't hired any in years, and the vice president had called and said, if you want to come, if you want to get hired, come to Hawaii. I said, when? He said, tomorrow. So I packed my bag and left and came here. And next thing I knew, I was hired in November 8th, 1977, inter island pilot, DC-9 co-pilot. And I had never been to Hawaii, didn't know hardly anything about Hawaii, but boy, it's been an education. And, now it's my home. And that's why I'm here, because I love Hawaii, and I love the people of Hawaii and what Hawaii represents. I mean, to me, and I think to most of the world, the love and the true aloha spirit, music, fun, nature, all the good things. So that's why I'm talking with you in support of all of that.
That's awesome. So let's talk about your experience with being, what, it wasn't arrested, was it just a citation, or what was the story when you had this face
Well,
diaper thing on your face?
yeah.
Or
Well,
you
it
did not
was.
have it on, I should say.
I didn't have it on, and I didn't, I didn't take the jab. I didn't do any of that. I resisted all of that. I'm glad I did, and I got in with some people. There's an awesome lady on Kauai, Lavana Loma. You might have known her for our rights. And so we were talking, and I became part of that movement there. And so they were having a freedom rally of all ironic things here in Honolulu. And I think it was 21. I don't know, it's kind of blurred all in there, the years, 2021 or 2022. But anyway, they were having the freedom rally in the park in Ala Moana Park here, and they had Sheriff Mack from mainland, and some Dale Big Tree or something from the High Wire, and all these big highfalutin guys. And halfway through the outdoor event, the police started showing up, and one car came, another car came, another car came. They ended up with maybe 15 or 20 cars pulled out there on the grass on the park, and in a semicircle behind, surrounding us, basically. And it was kind of a standoff. I mean, people were not wearing masks, and it was not, it was the 6 foot. We were in the 6 foot realm. You had to maintain a distance. And of course, these were all mandates, all of these things, directives. They were not, not laws. And I had become aware that these are not laws. And the only person or entity can do make laws is the legislature. Governor can't do it. Edicts, mandates, commands, whatever he wants to call them, proclamation. That's where those are not law.
Mm-mm.
And I had gotten, if I can back up just a second,
Mhm.
I had gotten my feet wet about a year before all of this, with listening to a radio program called Crow 777 radio. And people, your listeners might know Crow, but he's quite an outside the box thinker. And he had this unusual guest named Alphonse Fagiolo. Hi, Alphonse. And he's an amazing guy, a fighter guy all the way, kind of Sicilian family background. He lives in Philadelphia. He was talking on the program about how we're not subject to the laws and statutes and all these codes of the city government, state government, that they are in effect just private corporations like Walmart, Disneyland, whatever. And then, and that the police are like mall cops. They don't actually have jurisdiction over you. That's the magic. I don't like magic, but the word jurisdiction, that's the key word I think we need to start with. So what he was talking about was building up that the basic principle, and it's there in plain sight, but I never did see it because nobody ever explained it to me. And I hope I can do it justice, but very much I urge for your listeners and all of us, go listen to Crow 777 radio as the site. Mm-hmm. And listen to the archives. And he's got 4 or 5 appearances, and he will explain, you'll hear him. But basically, the point is, you and I are living, breathing human beings, flesh and blood, real, breathing air, and we have God-given rights by our Creator. And that is specifically cited in the Declaration of Independence, which to me has got a whole lot more clout than the Constitution even. So we'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, as a living, breathing human being, a corporation, which is what the city and county of Honolulu is, when they wrote me a ticket, they actually surrounded us. They charged us, the crowd literally charged us, the police. And there was, I don't know, 100 some people there. I mean, we were not doing anything, and everybody ran. I didn't run. I stood my ground. And they came. A sergeant was coming by directing a lot of rookies, and he pointed at me and said, "Get him." And so I was standing there 6 feet from everybody, and I had no mask on. So they came to me, 3 rookie cops, 3 of them surrounded me, and they said, "Put on your mask." And I said, "No, thank you." And they said, "Well, put on your mask, or we're going to give you a citation." Well, I said, "I'm not putting the mask. Go ahead, but I want to tell you now, I'm going to hold you personally responsible for whatever happens to me, because this is illegal, this is improper, and you have no right to do this." Well, anyway, they were rookie. They never heard anybody talk to them like that. They wrote me, one rookie wrote me the ticket, but just as he was finishing up, near riot broke out because the police had grabbed a mother and had I don't know, how her child was 8 years old or younger, and had thrown her to the ground. And the crowd was surrounding it, was ready to turn into a riot. And they had taken the child away from the mother. They arrested her, took her away in the police car, and the crowd was irate. And so then the police lost interest immediately with me, and they ran to go to join their force. Well, so I had the citation, but in the rush, the officer neglected to have me sign it, which is an important legal part, but maybe didn't really have to do with what happened after that. Well, I contacted this man, Alphonse Fagiolo, and I happen to have here a copy. I did send you an email of this, the affidavit that he wrote a template for me, what I should do. And what he told me was this is important. He told me that city and county of Honolulu is a corporation, and as a corporation, they are a legal fiction. They're not real. They only exist on paper. They're 2-dimensional. You and I are 3-dimensional. We're real. Corporations cannot interact with people. They cannot mandate to people, living people. So somehow they have to convert you like electricity. You have to go 12 votes to 112, whatever. That we are separate. So they will do that through a manner of trickery and legal language. I'll explain that in a minute. But so what Alphonse, he's so way ahead of this game. And he told me what you do is that take the citation and write on it no contract in big red letters. Take the affidavit, which he sent me the template for.
I have it right here on screen
Okay, there
share.
you go. Thank you. Yeah, so you can see he starts out, of course, everything you got to do is certified mail, with the green receipt, return receipt requested. And he put out, this is a template, and I think it's a wonderful for anybody in Hawaii that, or whatever your state, you can fill in the blank. But what we're talking about here, okay, is it starts out, all right, I am appearing, well, firstly, talks about who I am, and I'm my stance, my position, what I am. And he says, here I am, the affiant. I'm here by special appearance without waiving any rights, remedies, or defenses. I do not submit to the presumed jurisdiction of any party involved in this color of law action. So now there's a lot of words thrown in there, but color of law is a biggie. It's a biggie. And I didn't discover color of law until the year 2000, early 2000, when all of this hit us. But color of law, I can explain this a little bit. He has, it's it is actually pretend law that is not law, that's tried to make it look like law, like a mandate, like a proclamation, like all of these things. But it's not. It's not a legitimate law passed by the legitimate body, the legislature. So it's a phony. Color, it just means, it has an appearance, a semblance. It comes from an old English term. So it's basically what it is the full title is deprivation of rights by color of law. And that means that somebody's taking away your rights, that an official, mayor, governor, police chief, policeman, somebody that has a public quote unquote office, they cannot use that office or their power in that office to deprive you of your rights, your rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution, but not given to you by the Constitution. Now,
Yes.
there's a big difference, and you understand that, but as Alphonse explained, the Constitution builds a cage around the government to fence the government in on what it can do and what it can't do. Everything else belongs to us. And also they enumerate, just to reinforce our Bill of Rights, and the amendments there, freedom of speech, freedom of carry firearms, all of that. Anyway, the Constitution is not where our rights originate from. Our rights originate from our Creator. And they're called inalienable. And I know it's the argument pronounced inalienable, but actually I think it's correct, inalienable. When you lien something or put a lien on something, is to take it or hinder. But I can't sign them away. You can't take them away. I can't give them away. My rights are inalienable, guaranteed to me by God, the Creator. So now I'm stating my position where I'm standing. And I like to liken it to, one day I was looking out the window and I saw a fire plug outside on the street. And I watched somebody parking their car, trying to get in the little open spot, one spot on the street. And I watched as they went carefully back and forth many times, not seeing the fire plug. And finally they pulled up and they were all so proud, and they turned off the car, and then I could see a long pause. They looked at it. So I'm telling you, that was a huge lesson to me. That's what I want to share with you and your listeners. It was that moment that hit me, I realized, and then I watched them start the car and they had to pull out and they had to leave. Now all the fire plug did was stand there. As long as that fire plug is there, they couldn't park. So I realized this was a different case, but it was the same thing. If I'm right, if I'm in the right, and whoever's against me is in the wrong, I need to stand my ground. And I let them know that I'm there and I'm standing my ground. And if I don't move, they can't park there. They can't. And so I won the two cases with that. I learned that kind of a principle. But just to get back to this, so the color of law, our unalienable rights that God gave us. So we have all of this right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. They put all this flowery language, but actually, to live and be unhindered, is basically our right. And so I'm in that way, I guess. We have oligarchies now, the oligarchs, big business people, monarchs, and then there are the anarchs, anarchy. But that doesn't mean you're riot and tear down. It just means you don't want, it's like the libertarians. So I'm kind of moving toward an anarch here. I don't want the interference. But anyway, this has all been set up in an elaborate scheme, elaborate hoax. So we are now being subject to basically everything in our everyday life. We're under a tyranny. And in Hawaii, try and get to the point quickly.
Well, I'd love for you to share what you sent the judge and what happened in that court case, because it's
Thank
really
you. Yes,
interesting.
thank you. Yeah, so under Alphonse, instruction, God bless him. He's a really nice man and sharp, very sharp. Everything he told me, everything, and not this case, but in another case, I had a dispute over inheritance. He helped me, and he's right. He was right in everything he told me. But what I did, follow his instruction. I wrote no contract on that citation, and then I did they filled out the affidavit, and that I'm a living in flesh and blood human being, and there's only two ways that the city and county corporation can have jurisdiction over me. Jurisdiction is the big word again, the big word. Everybody has to establish their jurisdiction, every court, before they can move. And that's the most important thing right there. So anyway, I knew they didn't have jurisdiction, but I explained it to them. You're a corporation. I'm a flesh and blood human. I don't belong to you. There are only two ways they can have domain over me: that they own me, or that I have a contract with them. I have neither one. And I explained it in my affidavit very politely, but firmly. I have no contract with the city and county of Honolulu, state of Hawaii, and I am not the property of the city and county of Honolulu, state of Hawaii. Therefore, you have no domain, you have no jurisdiction, you have no case. Thank you very much. See you later. But I sent this, and this is important because we've been raised with Perry Mason on TV. At least I was that age. You think, oh, you get a sharp talking lawyer, he can go in there and he'll persuade. No, the case is really won with the paperwork before
Paperwork,
you go.
always the
This is
paperwork.
what's so important. You win or lose the case before you set foot in that court. I think 99% of the time. So I was prepared. I had it. I sent it in time. I sent it certified mail. I sent it to the judge, and it took my position. No contract. You have no jurisdiction. And this citation is nothing. And then I had my reserve that I didn't even sign it, but that never came up. So this was the days of the Zoom court. You might remember those days when you
Yep.
couldn't go. It was too dangerous for people to breathe in there.
Mm.
So I got on the line and I got in there for my time of the Zoom court, and I was watching, and I saw the judge run all the other, monkeys, what Alphonse calls them. All us monkeys run us one by one, through there. What's your name? How do you plead? Do you understand the charges against you? All of this. Well, they got to me. I'll talk about some of that other if we have time. What all that means. All those words mean something and not what we think they mean. But when they got to me, they didn't even really ask me my name to say my name, which is part of a contracting thing that we don't understand, but it's a secret deal they're doing. So when it came my time, and Mr. White is here, yeah, and immediately the district attorney was standing next to the judge, said, we moved to drop the charges against Mr. White, lack of evidence. And the judge obviously knew this already. She looked at me and said, Mr. White, the DA moves to drop charges. Do you object? I said, no, Your Honor. She said, case dismissed. Have a good day. It was less than 30 seconds. I think I'm in the Guinness Book of Records, shortest trial or whatever arraignment. But see, the facts were they knew that I knew where I was and who I was, and they didn't want the other monkeys in the court or on the line to hear me talk. And also she made a stipulation that there would be no paperwork. I don't know, some other things she said, but this is the world we live in. We live in a world of illusion. We live in a world of words that mean different things than what we think. But basically, we live in a world of corporations have taken over everything. And of course, the United States of America is a corporation.
Yes.
And they were formed in 1871. District of Columbia made an extra juris part, not part of the United States. It's a really, really kinky setup. And of course, they're part of the International Monetary Fund, but they're all linked to the Crown of England.
Mm-hmm.
Good old Crown of England. We thought we got away, but we didn't. They got
Yeah.
hold of us back again, 1871. We needed money. We got enslaved back to the crown, and then there's the Vatican, which is in Rome. So there's only three places in the world that are countries unto themselves,
Yes.
that are not countries. That's the Vatican and Rome, the religious center, the Bank of England and London, City of London.
City of, yeah.
Inside of London is a separate entity, is not the London we think about. Even the Queen has to get permission to go in there, and that's the banking center. And then good old Washington, D.C., District of Corruption. They are the military arm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, we were formed. They wanted to call us the new Rome's, the founding fathers, but they didn't do that. But anyway, we are basically the Rome, Babylon, or different thing. But we're the military arm. So we are a corporation, United States Inc. Biden is the CEO of a bankrupt corporation. That's the
Yes.
reality. So here he's doing edicts, proclamations, commands, all of this baloney, and he has no power to do it. Again, unless you work for the federal government, unless you're in the military, they own you, control you, have a contract with them. They have no jurisdiction over it.
Yeah.
Now to fast forward to Hawaii. This is the crazy part, and it's not crazy. It's crazy if we don't use it. This man here, Alphonse Fagioli, I sent you a picture of it, but this is his book, Hawaii, the Fake State. This is probably the most unknown book anywhere, but
Never seen it. Yeah.
this is the guidebook, and it's not really a book. It's more of a summary of his, a lot of his cases. The author A.A.Ardaiz, who has passed away unfortunately, but he left us this book. And let me just explain who Aaron was and what he did. Well, how I heard about Aaron. I have a friend for 40 years here in Hawaii that is a musician, played for Don Ho's show, was a conductor of the orchestra. He also was Jim Neighbors' orchestra conductor and worked with all the famous show business. Anyway, he is now a pastor himself. He's 85 years young. Frank Deal is his name, Pastor Frank. Well, Frank was a friend of Aaron. So back in 2020, in the dark days there, he started telling me about this friend of his that took him to court and I mean, represented himself in court. There you are. Now,
It's on Amazon, everybody.
yeah, but now let me tell you what I found. Amazon refuses to send this to Hawaii. They will not ship it to Hawaii.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what
I
they
can't
told me.
buy it. Look at that. They can't
Yeah,
buy it.
no, you can't. But Barnes and Noble will send it to Hawaii. We'll send it right to you. So that's where I got them.
Hmm.
So funny. I don't know why they don't want to send it, but they don't. So that's one good thing about the book. But this book is loaded with information. You've gone through, I've seen your other guests, all of the background, the monarchy, the overthrow, all of that. But what is really this book is pertaining to is that Hawaii in 1959, President Dwight David Eisenhower was scared to death of the communists and the Cold War and all of that. And Hawaii is a strategic military depot. We're an army base, what a glorified and it's interesting. But when we were attacked in Pearl Harbor, I was thinking of the language he used. He didn't say that our state or our country, but the dastardly attack on Pearl Harbor by the enemy. We were not a state then. So 1959, they wanted to make us a state. Well, Hawaii voted on that, and Eisenhower took it on himself to write a presidential proclamation to declare them a state, Hawaii and Alaska. But the Constitution does not afford that, okay?
Mhm.
So here's another little book that's very valuable to you and your listeners, and you I recommend Saving the Constitution. It's a line by line explanation by Dr. Richard Proctor. He's a wonderful man. He became a friend of mine. You can get it from Provis Institute. I'll send you some of these links. But so, according to the Constitution, there's only one way, and that is, there has to be the legislature has to vote.
Right.
2/3 vote to make a new state.
Mhm.
And your friend, I remember that lady had also said they cannot make a territory, annex a territory that's not geographically
Yes.
part. So
Touching, yeah, the other states.
yeah. So here we are, we're not a legitimate territory and we're not a legitimate state by the letter of the law, which I think means something. So when we fast forward to today, what does that mean? Well, what I know, all right, what I learned from Frank, he went to the courtroom one day with Aaron. And now Aaron was a businessman, hardworking, very smart, and a Christian minister, a very good man, honest. And I want to say we're not against legitimate rule and government or things order, law and order. No, but we're against tyranny. And Aaron was apparently too. So he went in many times. He did not, and he had a reason for that. He could afford a driver's license. He could afford registration. He was successful. He did not register his car, did not have a license plate, did not have a driver's license. And there are other things I don't know if I should get into, but he didn't play the game. He refused to play the game. And in this book, there's many, many cases. I don't know how many, 20, 30 times he was in the court getting stopped by the same officer, no license, no registration. He won every one. He beat every one. So how he beat it, I will explain quickly, is that Frank was there with him one day and he's an eyewitness. Maybe you can have him on your program sometime, but he was there and he told me, he said, Aaron refused to go in. The judge says, approach the bench, Mr. Ardaiz. He knew who he was. He'd seen him many times. He knew what was coming. Aaron wouldn't go in that part. If you watch Perry Mason, that little gate that swings where they go in and out. That's called the bar. And that has a significance. See, everything in the court has significance
Yes.
inside that. It's like a temple. It's like a religious thing. The Bible on the desk of the judge, what kind of Bible, what it says in that Bible, the flag next to the judge, all of this has this very big meaning. And Aaron was hip to that. He knew that.
The fringe on the flag.
Fringe on the flag. Thank you. And that's addressed here too in this book, what that means. That's a military. That means it's a military flag and the eagle on the top. Mm-hmm. So when there's a military flag next to the judge, guess what kind of court you're in? You're in a jurisdiction, a military martial law court, where he's like captain of the high seas also, the admiralty law. I mean, this is the thing where the captain has ultimate authority. I was a captain on the airplane. I know a little bit about, but in the courtroom, if you're there with a military flag or, you're under the admiralty law, military law, everything except the right law, the common law, which is what we got from the Magna Carta, the British, and which is really we need to talk about that one day, get back to the Magna Carta, because that's where all the good stuff, the right to trial by jury, right to trial by your peers. Even the King of England had to admit he did not have power to take your property away or to lock you up without due process. So
he allowed for the Magna Carta for a short time, but then he took it back. Then he folded.
Well, but it was a really bold statement that the knights did that, at the point of the sword, made him sign. King John, all of that was Camelot and all that kind of stuff, but So we're back looking at, here's Aaron approaching the bench, and the judge says, approach the bench, Mr. Ardaiz. He said, no, sir, I cannot. He wouldn't come in past the bar. And the judge, sat and he looked at him. And Aaron was polite but firm. He wouldn't come in, and they couldn't proceed. And so the judge looked at Mr. Ardaiz and said, I'm sorry, I apologize, but I don't have a 48-star flag available. He knew what Aaron's position was, why he wouldn't come in. And that's because the lawful flag of the Republic is 48 stars. The 50-star flag was done by Eisenhower, putting it on a military flag as commander in chief. He could do that, but that's not our legitimate flag. And I actually know a lady here that has a 48-star flag. But anyway, all of this, you may say, so what? What does that mean? Who cares? Well,
It matters.
it does matter. It matters a lot. And I just feel like, well, here we are in this terrible time that we're living in, where we're prisoners basically on this island under taxation, unjust rule, tyranny, proclamations. I don't know how many proclamations
Yeah.
Dr. Green has been issuing, like prescriptions,
Yeah, right.
for
He has no right to do that. But
no
because he is an executive, I think a CEO of the Corporation of Hawaii, and
state of
Hawaii's not.
Hawaii. Yes. So it's the money thing, for profit thing, Dun and Bradstreet thing, all of this stuff tied to the IMF, tied to the Crown of England, all this ridiculous stuff. Anyhow, it's a deep well when you get into this thing. It's a deep ditch, is what it is. But anyway, Aaron was too smart and very polite and very civil, but he said, no, I'm not coming in. And you know what? They dismissed his case, and every time, because he refused to give them jurisdiction over him. And this is where I cannot emphasize enough. Jurisdiction is the first thing you need to challenge every time there's some court proceeding, a traffic ticket, parking ticket, speeding ticket. And I'm not saying go break the law and hurt people. Now, if you hurt somebody, it's a game,
That's a
it's
different
a
thing.
different game.
Yeah.
That's a criminal. If you hurt bodily injury or monetary damage, now we're in a different thing.
Yeah.
But for this, if you don't hurt anybody, if there's no fine or money involved, damage that you did, they have no jurisdiction over you unless you give it to them.
Yes.
And I'll just, yeah, the contracting. And so everything is basically, they're using commercial law in the courtroom against us, all about contracts, which we don't understand. Lawyers won't tell you the truth. And I'm sorry to say that most attorneys are absolutely worthless, and are you're better off without them, because they all have the same team. They're with the Bar Association,
Well, do
BAR.
you know what the bar means, what the bar stands for?
Well, for what I've told, is British Accredited Registry. So they have allegiance to the Crown of England.
Yes. They don't even have allegiance to our United States, you guys. So
Yeah.
the reason why Aaron didn't want to go through the doors that go like this in the courtroom is because that means he would be going onto the ship. So that those gates for the courtroom that go in and out, those are represented, that when you walk in there, you are on a ship, a maritime law that now goes into maritime law, that whole area is maritime law. But that there's every single thing, and I believe that the bar did stand for back in the shipping days when they brought over slaves, they would put them and have them stay on the bar, which was holding them. It was a holding place for slaves.
Yeah. Chain them to a
Chain
bar.
them to the bar.
Yeah. Well, they're very nebulous and very hard to nail down. But here's the good thing. Good old Alphonse, he's got the antidote. Here's your bar grievance form. And they hate this, attorneys. You file a bar grievance against an attorney, they'll laugh at it. The Bar Association may throw it in the trash, but you know what? It rings the bell with his insurance company, and he can't practice without insurance to cover him. If he gets enough bar grievances, they will drop him, and he can't practice. So the judges are under the same. You can file judicial complaint, bar complaint. They're members of the bar, but you see, this is a mafia. And I'm sorry to say, my son is a bar attorney in LA. He won't talk to me. He will not talk to me, but I can't help it. The truth is the truth. They are a mafia.
Yeah.
Look at how many of the members of Congress are bar attorney. Look how many in
Yeah.
government, legislators, all they have their own secret society. They have their own ethics, which are none. And I got put through the ringer, and that was the second case. Well, anyway, they dismissed my mass case. I put them, dusted them off with no contract. So now I found out, I found out then that my aunt had died back in Georgia, and the only heirs left were me and my sister. My sister had decided she wanted it all. So she had hired the ex probate judge who had retired of Macon, Georgia, to be her attorney to change the will of my dementia aunt who didn't know what she was doing, signing everything to my sister under this judge's blessing. And then when my aunt died, I was not even notified. I had to find out afterward, and I had to go to Georgia. Anyway, I ended up filing, a caveat to the will. So now I got into a whole new education, probate and estate. But this has got to do with the dead. And this is interesting because everything in law has really got to do with living and dead. When you're alive, you're subject to the law. If you're not, of course, you're not subject. But the probate court turns out to be the place where the real money gets taken. They fleece the people. And so the judge there was not a very good person. And I realized it was all a corrupt system of good old boys and the attorneys working together. She would throw them houses, so she sold my aunt's house
Oh
out
my
from
gosh.
under. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
without title, without anything. She just decided she was going to sell it.
Oh my gosh.
So that I fought. She didn't honor that. And we got through 2 years of this. I went through two attorneys, and then I finally got to the point no attorney would work for me. And they didn't want me there because they knew I was standing up and I was the fire plug and I was ready to get them all into a grand jury. So we ended up, I was my own attorney. I'd learned all these things. And let me just tell you a couple things I learned. All right. When you get into the courtroom, all of this stuff, yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor, all that's all not really mean anything. But when they ask you, if you got a traffic ticket, Michelle, do you understand the charge against you?
Oh, understand.
And
Mm,
you say, "Oh, yes, I understand. You
mm,
just lost." All right.
yeah.
Because understand does not mean what we think, comprehend, speaking English, whatever. Understand means, do I place myself willingly under you to stand under your authority? There
Yes.
you have now given them jurisdiction.
Yes.
So this is why you have to be very careful and do the dance, whatever you to stay out of their jurisdiction, to know what is right, what's not right. Pleading. How do you plead? Guilty, not guilty. It don't matter. When you plead, again, you're
Yeah.
saying, I'm throwing myself at the mercy of the court. I've already
Yeah.
lost. Your lawyer, when you hire your lawyer, you've already lost anyway. You're basically saying, I'm a baby in diapers. I can't make my own
Yes.
case. So I'm a ward of the court.
Yes.
So, I mean, this has all been fostered on us and by Perry Mason. I have to tell you, I laugh when I look at Perry Mason because the hidden coding in there.
Mhm.
Hamilton Berger, the district attorney, Hamburger, he was always getting eaten for lunch by Perry Mason, Masonic. Most of the lawyers are
Oh
Mason.
my gosh. I didn't
I
even think
mean,
that.
oh, all the
Yeah,
Hollywood, they're having a
that's
really fun
true.
time with that. And
Very
we just, yeah, little
Mason.
kids, oh, wow,
Mason.
he wins
Yes.
every time. So, of course, the
Wow.
judges are Masons, the lawyers are Masons. It's a rigged deck. So anyway, but here's how you can fight it. You can fight it with your affidavit, fight it by knowing who you are and that they don't have this power over you, and by the bar grievance and the judicial grievance. And then
Hmm.
you have grand jury. Now, grand jury is something I'm just starting to learn.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
we have a lady here in Honolulu that's an expert on that, on the citizen, we the people grand jury. Now, this has been shoved aside for 100 years or more. It's not in operation here in Hawaii, but that has authority over every judge, every court. You don't go by that. And like the common law, if you can get into a common law court, the jury decides what is the law. The jury decides what is the award. The judge is only there as more or less a moderator, a referee, but he doesn't have or she the power. This is where we need to always go for common law. We want to be tried in a common law court,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to fight them over jurisdiction. Most of the time, you don't even have to go. And so Alphonse is now, just to throw in the latest thing, he's moved up big time. He's now fighting his borough in Pennsylvania, and he's got him over a barrel over property tax. The property tax is not constitutional. They cannot make you pay every year for what is already yours and then
Exactly.
take it away from you. If you owe them $10, they'll take
Yeah.
it and sell it at auction. Well, he's got them. He got them hanging, hanging by the neck, and they don't know what to do with him. He's got it all done. He spent 3-4 years doing this case. And now the judge that was overseeing the case, he tried to get Alphonse locked up for contempt of court and all that. Well, Alphonse turned around and hit him with a personal liability suit, which that made him run for the exit. He excused himself right away from the case, the judge.
Good for
Because
him. That's
when,
awesome.
when they get outside
Yeah.
their legal authority, then now they're fair game. And Alphonse called them. Nobody ever calls them on that. But all the tax assessors lie. They don't sign the paperwork. They don't do the paperwork. He caught them all red-handed. And now he's got them, but the state of Pennsylvania don't want to admit it. But he's working with the guy in Florida that won a $32 million judgment from the state of Florida for taking somebody's house and selling it illegally for property tax. So that man, anyway, you can find Alphonse on Telegram. Alphonse Fagiola Telegram. I highly recommend people look him up, and he's got all his paperwork, all his cases, all his advice on there. So we have a method, we have a way of fighting. So why are we talking here now in Hawaii? We're working up here to what are we going to do about Lahaina? What are we going to do with Lahaina? Everybody wants to know about Lahaina. Oh, well, poor people. It was just a really unfortunate. What a series of just bad luck and bad everything. And I don't know how far we can go with this on this platform, but everybody I think knows what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
no water, no fire alarm, no exit strategy, no
That's
help.
murder. That's murder.
Well, yeah. So me as a pilot, this is what really gets my back up. I'm trained, I'm given responsibility for people's lives, which is what these people also had, the fire chief of all these other. And I have to follow procedures. I'm trained. I have a book, this is my manual, this is my book, this is what I have to follow. If I don't follow that, God help me. And we go down and people get hurt, it's me they come to hang. That I can resign all day long, but that don't set me free from liability. So it's now gotten very hard on pilots, very hard on them. And so I'm just saying, I'm a pilot, not a lawyer, but I know how to read regulations. See, that's a big part of my job, and it was of my career as a pilot. You have to know how to read the FAR, Federal Air Regulation, follow them, how to follow rules. So that's how I was able to pick this up and look and see what are the rules. Well, guess what? They break all the rules and nothing happens to them. And if you have, if you don't pull the fire alarm, if you don't set off the alarm, this is a major crime when that's your responsibility to warn the people.
Yeah.
Even the Bible, in many places, is talking about the watchman on the wall. If the watchman is asleep, doesn't sound the alarm, the blood is on his hands of the people. But if he sounds the alarm, then people don't listen. Well, that's different. Well, obviously they didn't sound the alarm. They didn't sound the cell phone. They didn't do anything, nothing. And they're still doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so how can we go at them? How can we go and hold them accountable? Well, good old Aaron, bless his heart, he's left a legacy for us. He goes through all of this, the Hawaiian background and all these papers and documents and treaties and things. But what he's doing, the biggest thing that I've gotten so far, and I hope maybe we can find some better additional, but in addition to all these acts and things that were violated and the sovereignty violated and the monarchy violated, but again, we have this color of law, the color of law. And now you can hold them criminally liable and civil court liable too, which is, I think, very much that Dr. Green has been inviting himself to get nailed with the color of law suit.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the sheriff or the police chief and
yeah,
so many of them.
The mayor and the fire chief and Mr. What's his name,
Yep.
Herman Andoyo, who didn't who resigned for his health. Well, too bad. He's going to have some more.
I bet it's your health.
But you know what? The other thing, we don't have a sheriff. We don't have a constitutional sheriff, by the way. I was looking during the whole scam thing here. Who was our sheriff? I couldn't find him. We don't have one.
Not in Hawaii.
We have, it's supposed to, he's appointed by the governor, I found out. But nobody really knows who he is.
Elected by the people. That's not
elected by the people. Supposed to be elected by the, he is the highest law enforcement agency. He's elected by the people. He's our protection against the buffer against corruption. Now, they don't honor that here. He's actually let the governor appoint him. Well, what could go wrong with that? So, and then all the other deputy sheriffs on the islands, they're just subject to whatever, but the police chief of Maui should be under the sheriff, that should be over him. He's not. And by the way, have you looked up to see the police chief of Maui, what he did during the fire thing? I mean, the gun killing over there in Las Vegas?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, it just happens to be the same, cop who had the largest mass shooting in the United States and now the largest fire. But so what is the action that people can take? And let's put that in the description. And we'll also put the description, the affidavit that you sent, as well as the other thing that you shared, the book that you shared. So I'll put that all in the description, you guys, for everybody. But what is the action that we can take against these criminals?
Well,
mafia.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, it's RICO, it's mafia, it's a lot of these things which you can get into. But the place to start would be that this is not the de jure government. This is not constitutionally done. The state is not a legitimate state of the union. And so therefore, we're not subject to the federal things that they put over us. But now in the state, we're into this color of law thing. And the color of law is defined as the appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right, misuse of power possessed by virtue of state law and made possible only because the wrongdoer is clothed with authority of state, is action taken under color of state law. And it cites the case here, Atkins versus Lanning, and whatever the acts of color under color of any law of a state include not only acts done by state officials within the bounds or limits of their lawful authority, but also acts done without and beyond the bounds of their lawful authority, provided that in order for unlawful acts of an official to be done under color of any law, the authority provided that
so I'm going to actually, Ted, because this is we're going to need to, we're almost closing here. What is the action? Can people take an action against the government?
Yeah, you file a color of law suit against them that they violated their oath of office and they're outside of their bounds of the authority of their office, or that they have caused harm to people, which the chief of police obviously did. So now this is the thing, Andoyo, all these people, the mayor, the fire chief, even the governor, he's out to get this land, for the state. I mean, he's already tipped his hand. So these are subject to color of law action, to suits against them for violation. So it's Title 18 and also under Title 42, which is criminal. So you can find that in Aaron's book, but just look up the color of law action. And that would be a place to start. After that, there's all these other things, money laundering, and of course, working as they are as a corporation, not as a legitimate state of the
Mhm.
union. We have a whole nother thing to unwind. But in any case, it's something for we the people to get our teeth into, and I think it's something that we absolutely should do and not neglect this.
So can you send me links on how to do this? Can anybody do this?
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
do we so it's filing
Anybody
a
that's in state of Hawaii or has standing, but specifically the people in Maui, be better these people that have lost their home, and that the governor supposedly has $200 million fund at his discretion. He's not using it. And there's another guy that has a charity that he's admitted had $119 million, and he never has only used 19 million, sitting on 100 million that was a charity waiting for the right time. Whatever the right time, this is the right time. But I'm saying that, there should have been action done, and there was, again, dereliction of duty, violation of their oath of office, and doing proclamations under color of law, which is what Green is doing. And he's just started because they're
yeah.
going to try and get back into the jab thing, and they got a lot of other stuff. So I don't know. I have a feeling that the chief of police came here for a reason.
Mhm.
I think it's to bring casino gambling here to Hawaii and to Lahaina. I'm going
Oh,
to just
that's
say.
disgusting. That's
So
disgusting.
they want it. They want it bad. I mean,
Well,
the state.
let's do our part. So this is filing a court case against these people. Is
Yeah,
that what you're
yeah.
saying?
A suit in federal district court, violation of oath of office and deprivation of rights under color of law. They deprive these people of their rights to their home, their life,
Hmm.
liberty, their pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
They got no assistance. They're not helping them now. They didn't help them then. They didn't bring the National Guard in there to give them food, shelter, and protection, which they do all over the world, but they don't
Hmm.
do it here. They could bring a cruise ship there to house people in it, but they don't do it. All they want is to reopen to get tourists and bring tourist money. But it's going to bring bad karma. I mean, it's going to bring bad feeling. I hope not. But I talked to a young Hawaiian man today, and he said, the Hawaiian people can only take so much, and then they might resort to other means that we don't like. But I don't want that. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. But we don't need to sit idly and do nothing. We should just take action, get Aaron's book, catch up on this. And then we need to challenge the legislature and the governor. Show us where's your jurisdiction. Where are you a legitimate state or not? If you're not a
So
legitimate state.
so I have people in my last video that are sending FOIA requests
Yeah,
asking for the
yeah,
legitimacy of the Hawaii state that it is a corporation. So,
yeah,
well, how about if you send me the steps of how to do this? I don't know about, like, I have not gone into federal court, and like we don't want to go into federal court. So, I'm curious if they're like how we can do this going. I know that I do have somebody I'm talking to shortly who is going after their bonds, insurance bonds, which is
yeah,
definitely a good way to go.
yeah,
But
yeah,
all of us listening, all of you guys listening, especially Lahaina and Maui people, or anybody who's been attacked, these are color of law. That means it's not real law. They're trying to trick us into thinking they have a jurisdiction over us or power over this, and they do not. So I'm all about finding ways to show these people that the jig is up and they need to be removed from office, in my opinion, in a peaceful way, because their office is not a government office. It's like Green is the CEO of Walmart telling us what to do and giving us all these damn proclamations and saying that they're mandates, and a mandate isn't even law. It's a suggestion. And that's what
Mhm.
Fauci's getting. There's a whole thing with Fauci. He's like, we didn't tell you guys to take the thing, but it was mandated, which means a suggestion. That's what's happening with that guy. So anyway, any last thoughts for us, Ted? Thank you so
Well,
much for your time.
well, yeah, thank you for letting me speak. This is a difficult thing, and you know, it always ends up getting convoluted into the monarchy and the overthrow and all that. I recognize that, but this is more than that. Okay, this is bigger than that. This is now we're dealing with the truth of the structure, the illusion that have been perpetrated on us by these malefactors. I mean, they endless money. They keep printing the Federal Reserve, which is not federal and is not. But then the Ukraine war, I again, is a bad example. I'm totally against that, and all these other killing. It's the death cult. I'm sorry, but that's what all this is about. And Dr. Green, who I understand not really a real doctor, but anyway, he's not helping Hawaii. He's not from Hawaii. He's from Pittsburgh. His team is the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I call him the Pittsburgh Steeler. He's here to steal the
Yeah,
land.
absolutely.
So
That's what he said.
he's got to get called. He's got to get called on that, and it's maybe up to you and I, people like us. So I hope they will all contact you, contact me. You have my email, and you know I'll be happy to help. And there's more people here that know more than I do about this. That we're working on this. We want to file, but don't be afraid to file in federal court. It's no big deal. You can do that, and it's
Well,
much better than
give us
trying to
a
do in the store, the
yeah,
state.
give us the steps to do that, and I'll put it
All
in the description. And
right.
I'm happy to do it myself, as well as do the FOIA request, which I actually already
Yeah.
did, the Freedom of Information Act, asking them for the legitimacy that that they have standing at all to govern over us. So I really feel that the more of us that do these actions, the stronger we all are together, and it really does matter. So I do want to say that there is, if you didn't see my video on silver, precious metals, if your retirement, this is a kind of a note or a message from my sponsor. It is World Trans World Metals Ltd.com, Transworld Metals Ltd.com. If your retirement is still in fiat dollars, if you don't have real estate, if you don't have gyms or precious art, precious metals is the way to go. And anybody, doesn't matter, you don't have, you can do $100 and just buying some precious metals, silver, gold. It's just really good to have, because the fiat dollar is going down. And not only that, but Biden just passed a executive order that is going to tax 36 to 48% of your retirement in fiat dollars. So if your retirement is in money, in a 401k, and it doesn't have mutual funds and things like that on the stock market, it could go down as much as 36 to 48%, giving that to the government. So please check the link in the description. It'll say sponsor, and it is Trans World Metals Ltd. And even if you just want to purchase $100 or $200 worth of metals, you can do that. So you guys ready for a prayer?
Yeah.
Awesome. Great Spirit, infinite intelligence of all things, we know that you are really in charge of this game called being in a human body and having a human experience, and the illusion that we are separate from you, Great Spirit of love. We know that this time is a very challenging time for all beings on the planet, going through this time of truth and courage to stand up for what is right and for what is ours to do, our kuleana. And doing what is right is not always easy, but doing what is right enough times makes it easy. And the more of us that do what is right, the stronger we are together. So right now, Great Spirit, infinite intelligence of all things, we just ask that you hold a light in all people who are hearing this message, hold a light in their heart of inner strength that they can do this, of inner knowing what is theirs to do, and of love that they have for their ohana, as well as all people around the planet, because every single person around the planet wants freedom, wants peace for their family, wants their family to be safe, wants abundance, and to be able to put food on the table for their children. So we just ask that this darkness is leaving the planet in a peaceful way, that any lies and manipulation and deceit is shown for what it truly is, and that more and more people are waking up to knowing they are under you, Great Spirit. They are a living man or a living woman. They are not a fictitious name. They are not an entity that can be controlled and mandated, that they are a free person. And we know this is true. And we give so much gratitude for the consciousness of Jesus Christ that surrounds this entire planet and filling us all with love and compassion. And we give so much gratitude to the guides and angels that always support us, and to all light beings on the present planet, on the planet presently, in the past, and in the future. And we know it is done, and so it is. Thank you, Ted, for joining me. Mahalo so much.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. All the best, and hope we can get the ball rolling here.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, you guys, much mahalo and aloha. Please share and like and check the description, because all the things we just talked about are in the description below. Much mahalo.